Alright, we're gonna be getting started here real soon. Man, had some issues with technology. Imagine that. But I think we got it settled now.
Done.
Are you done? Okay. Give me just a minute. I'm gonna say hi to everybody.
Hi.
New employee today. You ready to get to work? Alright. I'm gonna get him working and then I'll be right back.
Now
let's see.
I put
Okay. See if we can't get a little bit of work done here. Hey man, how's it going? Excellent. You're doing pretty good. Getting ready for wrap up the new year or the old year and start up the new year. Is it really? I wasn't sure if it was going to make it that far south or not. We're definitely supposed to get some. You say you probably won't be coming in on New Year's Eve? Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, that's becoming increasingly more difficult. Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Did you have a good 2017? Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. Dude, that's awesome. Well, congrats. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. Well, you want to start with the pump house, or do you want to start about Godwin? Okay. All right. Let me open that. I guess I should send you the model, huh? Oh yeah. We're at pretty much preliminary bid set at this point. So he is kind of instead of paying us for the scope of managing all the consultants, he's going to manage all the consultants. And oh man, what's this? Oh well. He's going to manage the consultants, and we're going to basically give him all the stuff that he's going to hand out. Now, what we'll do is at the end, we will coordinate the set, and be sure that it looks like a complete permit set when we submit everything. But we're not going to be managing you guys in terms of. He's basically going to tell you guys, yeah, I want a split system, or yeah, I want just a air handler unit or whatever. He's going to give you that information. We're not going to try to dictate that in terms of what needs to be done. Well, so what I think at this point, what you guys need to do is figure out what his needs are in terms of conditioning and how that relates to the energy code, and what you guys can provide us a solution for that. And then just let me know if there's anything that needs to be coordinated on our end. He does have a set of drawings, and you can ask him for this, and it'll be in the model as well, that contains his kind of full vision for what he wants to do for the conference room. So you'll probably want to consider that in whatever system you design. Yes, yeah, we'll send that as well. Okay. Okay. Yep. Yeah, and I'll give you a heads up. You'll probably need to kind of maybe pull some teeth or do some educating with Evan. He has a company that has done the utility distribution to his site, and I think they're still working on that. I don't have any site information. I only have what he's given me in terms of an architectural site, so I don't know where the utilities are going. I don't know where his sewage line is. I don't have any of that information. So it could be that once you get that information that we might need to move some things around, but we only have one toilet and one sink, so it's not like a huge deal. Yep. He should have that information, but I don't know if the company that's done the utility distribution has given that to him yet. Yep. It should not be needed. Yep. Yeah, now we'll tell you, we don't have, all we've done is we've told the contractor in the documents that they need to meet the energy code minimum requirements. We don't know what they're going to put in yet. So you might want to check with Evan, say, if you have a contractor involved already, or you have one selected, see if you can get in touch with them and ask them what kind of insulation they're going to put in, so that you can do your comm check and energy requirements for your mechanical loads. I don't know if you guys are going to do comm check or not. All we've indicated is, hey, this is the minimum that you have to meet. Why does this look different than... So to give you an instance, the note says metal panel by building manufacturer on insulation to meet R13 plus R6.5 continuous insulation requirements. Insulation system to be approved by owner prior to construction. So basically we've given you a minimum, but there could be a chance that the contractor goes in and says, well, I've got this system that gives you that gives you like an R9 continuous and an R17 or R19 in the walls. And then that could bring down the load requirements on your mechanical system. So and just keep that in mind. Do you guys, I'm still reeling by this. I just found this out today. Do you guys use SketchUp much? So I just found out that Trimble has made the free version of SketchUp web only. There is no downloadable 2018 SketchUp make. Yeah. My opinion is I'm not going to open a web page every time I need to work on something. But to be fair, if I needed to download something to work on to actually do professional work, then I should probably use the pro version anyway. So yeah. Right. Yeah. The problem that I have with that is that, you know, you have communities where this free version of a very intuitive modeling software that's really, you know, it's like the gateway drug to modeling. It really is. It's intuitive, it's easy to use, and it's no longer accessible to communities without internet. So like this entry level program is no longer capable of being used by kids that are in communities that don't have access to the internet. Yeah. So I don't know. That's kind of like that was kind of my first thought, you know. Yeah, exactly. Well, those kids can't use SketchUp anymore. So, and people might ask, well, how would they get SketchUp to begin with? Well, relatives might bring it to them on a CD or a USB drive or something like that. You know. So I'll have to look more into this to see. So I just found this out today. I was trying to get it installed for Noah to do some modeling. No, what are you modeling over there? Making a lake? Holy cow. You're making a river. All right, well, we'll be looking out for the EPA agency to come knock on our door for making rivers. So, and that's the other thing, you know. Got an 8-year-old over here using SketchUp, and the only way to do it now is to put him in front of a web browser. Which, you know, he could easily get into something else that I don't really want him to get into, because he's literally in front of a gateway to the entire internet right now. Yeah. Anyway, I'll have to look at that. Anyway, yeah, back on track. Godwin building. So the set should have everything that you need to kind of get started, and I will send you the model. Do you want DWGs? You can create DWGs. I'll let you create DWGs. Send. Was that a positive or a negative for him? Okay, yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, cool. Yeah, and don't think of it as, you can't contact us to coordinate directly, but we'll need to be sure that any coordination goes through. I mean, obviously goes through Evan. So, but and I don't, you're the only consultant that I know on the project. He has a structural guy, but I don't know who that is. Like, I have their contact information, but I don't know who it is. So. All right. Okay. So the dimension. I looked over the entire set of stuff that you sent a while back, and it looked like that was mostly mechanical stuff. I didn't see anything that really pertained to the architectural, except for the metal building manufacturers' attempt to add documenting the project. We'll get to that in a second. The sheet that you sent me with the piping supports coordination with the dimensions on it. This was just you confirming where those pipes are, or are these new locations for? Okay, so how do I know which ones are new locations and which ones are? Okay. Right. Looks like mostly grid lines. Yep. Are exactly centered. Okay. Okay. Yep. 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 Right. Well, so to give you an idea of how these were measured, they did not locate these off of grid lines. They located them in relationship to each other in the plans. So I'll go back and look and see where how they had them located. And what I'll do is what's that? Yep. Okay. And okay, excellent. That's good to know. Okay. All right. Oh, we can do that. It's not that big of a deal. We can do that. Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Excellent. Well, that's good to know. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and do that. Did you ever? So there's a couple things that I noticed haven't been resolved in terms of some of the RFIs that I already sent, like the footings being larger than the perimeter of the building slab in some areas, and footings going into trenches that are in the slab. So unless there's resolution on that, I'm just going to kind of leave those the way they are. Okay. The other thing that's going to be up in the air is the columns that are in the metal building manufacturer's model. The main columns are much larger than what was called out or what was shown. There was nothing called out in the structural. There were no column sizes, which means that I'm going to have to go back and look at how they've detailed the supports for the columns. But unless there's specific sizes, I have no way to know what size to resize the concrete column supports based on the new sizes from the metal building manufacturer. I don't know if that makes sense or not, what I'm saying. Okay. Uh-huh. Yeah. So can you open the structural file I can clear it up really quick. So, and while you're firing that up, so it's not that they're different. If you recall in the RFI, the structural never gave us any column sizes for the original structure. It was it was just called out as pre-engineered metal building frame. So they never gave us a size for those columns, but they did size the concrete that the columns set on. So the original, yeah, the original columns I scaled to be about 1 foot. Let's see, what is this dimension? About 1 foot deep. Well, the actual dimensions are like 1 foot 2.5 inches deep, or something like that. Which means they're much larger than what we had originally anticipated. Now, the problem with that is that right now the column overhangs the foundation. So, do you have the structural model up? Oh, it's not a DWG, it's the PDF, the structural PDF. No, I would not take you through the torture of opening those DWGs. I actually had to, I thought I was going to have to scrap all the stuff that I had done yesterday because those DWGs jacked up one of my views in my model. It's going to be S401. It's the O5 structural PDF from the original set, or the latest set. Yep, and it should be a pump house foundation plan. And so up in the upper left corner, you see there's a detail C2 S503, and you can see that it circles the column foundation, concrete, basically plinth that it sits on. So if you go to S503 and go to C2, which is in the top middle of the page, you can see that they've given us a 1 foot by 1 foot block that sits outboard of the 8-inch by 8-inch foundation strip. You see that? So the problem is that our column is now much larger than that block, and so we're going to have to go back to structural and say we need new foundation sizes to set these columns on. Yep. Yeah. So let me go back and look at. I said 1 foot 2.5 inches, but I've got that right. The answer is no, it's not enough, but I need to go back and look at the dimension that I have. Which, by the way, I'm starting an RFI for the metal building manufacturer. The metal building manufacturer, in any of the DWGs, they don't call out any sizes. So I'm dimensioning from the sizes that they've provided in the model. So let me look at this. 2 foot 2.5 inches. That sounds better. 2 foot 2.5 inches. So it's about 1 foot and 2 inches larger than it was before. Yeah. So the structural guys are going to need to come back and give us and resize those foundations that those sit on. And it's also, they've designed it to be slightly asymmetrical, which I'm not really sure why. I'd be interested to know why they did it. So on one side, on the north side of the building, the girts on. Tell it the metal building, yeah, the metal building itself. They've designed the girts to be inboard of the main vents, the main columns, and on the south side of the building, the girts are bypassing, so they're on the outside. And I don't know why they did. I'd be curious to know why they did that. Just not because I think it's wrong, but it's interesting that they did that, because that means that our columns on the south are now also sitting closer into the building. So let me go back to floor plan. Yes, and I will tell you right now that there are 1, 2, 3 places on the south now where the column foundations are going to interfere with pipe supports and pipe support footings. It can probably be poured into it, but it's an issue that they're going to want to address with the metal building manufacturer. Let me go through this list and see if there's anything else that I found yesterday. I'm just going to go. I'll send this to you too. I don't know if you're still using Box for this, or if you just want me to email them to you, or how you want to do that. Okay, I'll just email it to you then, if that's okay. So no support sizes are called out, so I've just had to measure from the DWG. So if they want to use specific sizes, it'd be good to have that documentation somewhere. Verification of roof support profile sizes. Okay, so one of the things, yeah, so the purlins and girts are not, they give me a profile, but they don't call out what shape or what size it is. Does that make sense? So I'm kind of just tracing those and putting them based on the profiles that they sent. The purlins and girts are shown at 8 inches and 10 inches, 8 inches on the wall, 10 inches on the roof, and there's a gap between the main support and the purlin shapes. And I'm not sure if this is intentional, because it's just single line profiles. There's no thickness to them, so I don't know if the intent is for those to sit directly on, or if they're assuming that there's some kind of connection flange between. And typically, I think they would just fasten straight to the main structure, but it's hard to know for sure because there's a gap between the profiles and the columns. Column placement is not close to original document placement in relation to edge of slab. So originally, I think the columns were like 4 inches from the edge of slab, and now they're 2 inches from the edge of slab on the north, and something like 8 inches from the edge of slab on the south. So that'll be something that we want to address. 6 1/4 inches on the south. The columns in the end wall, those sizes are not given, so I'm just using the shapes, the profiles that they provided in the model. Column layout does not match original structure or architectural documents. So the column grid is slightly modified. On the two end column lines 1 and 6 and A and E are in a different location than the original architectural and structural documents. And with the column size changes, it is unknown how concrete column bases sizes are affected, and that's what we were just talking about. That's kind of the main thing right now that I'm noticing, is that how those columns are going to be dealt with is unknown right now. So it doesn't look like on the north, it doesn't look like there's any new conflicts that weren't there already in terms of concrete being poured into each other. But on the south, we definitely have some issues that we need to address. Yeah, I mean the column there gets a ooh. No, I think it goes down in bends. I think you still have good clearance there. But I'll bring the piping model in, and we'll take a look at that as well when we get into this. So, but yeah, that's just what I've come across so far. To be honest, the DWGs, I probably spent 3 hours just trying to get those into Revit. So I don't know what program they use to export their DWGs from, but oh man, what a mess. It's got to be a third-party program, because it was pretty rough yesterday. I was laughing and crying at the same time. I will say, this is another one that I didn't write down yet, but I need to. So it's hard to tell from their documentation. They show the finished floor height, and then they show a solid line going straight across. So it's hard to know whether or not they are measuring their finished floor height from the pump room floor or from the elevated foundation. My guess is that they're just telling us this is where the column sits. So where the column sits is where it sits. But I don't know if that's going to affect. It shouldn't affect their structure to have a recessed slab, because your structural engineer is going to be the person who tells you how to take these new column sizes. if the column sizes are ever given, and how to support those. So, and then there's some small things, like some of the drawings show like 2 foot 2.5 inches for the lower half and 2 foot 2 and 9/16 of an inch for the upper half. And it's one of those things, like, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the same, but you never know whether or not that's intentional to get 1/16 of an inch larger than the upper half. These steel guys, they like to be precise. So, there's a couple things that I'm trying to work through, but I'll probably get this model wrapped up here in the next. Well, let me ask, what's your timeline on needing to get something back on this? Okay. Yesterday. Gotcha. All right. Right. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, let me know if you need anything else. Yep. You too. Hey, did you watch the US match yesterday? Did they? I wasn't sure. They looked like they were doing really good in the first period. Yes, yes. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Plus, they have ice in most of their country, I'm guessing. Yeah. Darn. Well, we watched it for a little bit last night while we were reading and doing some homework, so. Well, so hockey is one of those sports that I find very similar to soccer in terms of strategy and pace of play. So especially if you want to see why I enjoy watching hockey, go watch some futsal, Futsal. Watch, Yeah, it's. I mean, that's what I use to train my kids in soccer, and it's very fast paced, on the fly subs, very very ball movement, puck movement oriented strategies, and so there's some similarities there to I like to watch and find it fun to watch. But more than anything, I'm actually just a big Team USA fan. So anytime that there's a national sport that's going on, maybe football would be more interesting to me if there was a Team USA football team. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, it stinks to hear that they lost yesterday, but so I guess I'm not really into the tournament, so I'm not really sure. I guess what's left, is it still group play? Is that what they're in right now? Cool. Well, good luck. Oh, cool. Well, have fun. Sounds good. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey, Noah. Can you take down to recycling. Box. All that stuff. Get down to recycling. Ask Miss Holly if she can box for
that situation we had earlier.
Friday.
Well, I was I remember when I went.
Yeah.
Got that working. It's not anything I can deal with right now.
Right.
We'll have to.
Yeah. Well, it's just frustrating because now we're starting to lose time because we're having to restart all that stuff. What I would do is if you've closed Revit, I would just go ahead and restart your computer.
Alright.
Just to see if it refreshes.
Alright.
And in fact, when you get back up, I'm gonna, if you want to come look at this over here, I'm gonna have you work on some other stuff for me. This will be a good opportunity to get some modeling experience in. It's gonna be a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
Okay.
So what we have here is, I think you've seen this before. This is the pump house project. This is the one that I was showing you. Did I ever put the? I don't think I ever put the. Tanner sent us. Tanner.
Again,
pipe.
this pump house. What is it exactly for?
So this is on a military base. This pump house is where all the fuel for vehicle fleet fueling, jet fueling, and all that stuff comes through this pump house for filtration and pumping to the different distribution centers. So he sent us. He sent us a model. Tanner pump house model. I wonder if I can get it through my OneDrive. Why would I not? All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent.
I'm not sure. Let's see here. Why did it do that? From Tanart from Tanart. No results. I have no emails from Tanner. Oh, this might help. Type model. Must be Friday. I can't type. House model. What is going on? Sorry, I'm sure this is exactly what you want to spend your time doing, is watching me.
I'm not fine.
Let's see. Interpretation. Pump house model. There we go. Let's see if I can still download this. And they modeled a lot more stuff. But let's see. Why is it downloading twice? This doesn't make any sense. The computer's being all kinds of weird now. All right, well, that's downloading. Essentially, what I want you to spend some time doing, and this might take you the rest of the day,
Okay.
which is okay because this is a good skill to have. Okay, this is really going to help us for you being able to come in and do. And I've seen that you've started to kind of mess with a couple things in families, and that's fine. But I want you to create one so that you can kind of start to see how these things can work. By the way, in the Godwin model, I figured out why the panel was disappearing. For some reason, it was the visible checkbox was turned off.
Oh, okay.
Did you do that?
Probably. I can't remember.
I bet you did.
If you didn't do it, then I did.
I didn't do it. So what I'm going to have you do is this model that they have sent us to work from it's horrendous, but it's what we have to work from. And really, the only way for you to be able to work from this is going to be to come in and import this DWG, which is under Pump House, Frampton and Associates Pump House, and I'll send you all this information in a to-do. And there's a DWG in here, which is magnificently horrible. And you'll see what I mean when you get in there and you start working with it. But essentially what we need is there's no good way to view this model. There are a few different types of sizes of columns. I think there's 4 different sizes. And in the Pump House model itself, I have a view called HM Building Drawings, where I've imported all the drawings from the metal building manufacturer. Mm-hmm. So, excuse me. What your task is going to be is going in and modeling these column pieces as a single unit, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. So you've got this size right here. Okay, this is one, and then you've got this one. And then you got this one, and this one. I think one of these is on 2 different columns. This one is a little bit different because you see how it's straight all the way through right here. Okay. And this one, how it kind of kicks in a little bit. Okay. So all of them have just a little bit of difference. Like the height here is a little bit different. It's 24 foot, 5/8 of an inch there and there. But here, I think somewhere else I saw that it's 24 foot, 2 3/4. So it's a little bit narrower here on this one. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to model these columns. Okay? And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to have to look at a few different views. So you're going to need to look at this view, which is a plan view, to get the shape of this vertical part. Okay? This is the vertical part. Okay? And unfortunately, there's no sections of these parts right here. So you're just going to kind of have to guess at what it does up here. These, I'll show you some pictures here so you can kind of get an idea of what you're looking at. I would recommend spending maybe an hour or so just going to a building manufacturer's website or researching components of metal building columns, so that you can understand, like, so this whole thing is called a bent or main rib or main column, right? You've got your vertical component here, and you've got, this is called a haunch, which is the connection between the leg, right, and the column. And there's different components of how this is built, and you can kind of see how this bracing piece is welded in and things like that. Find some videos on how these things are put together. If you want to, these are flanges where they'll probably weld or bolt this leg into this. Okay, so kind of get a really good idea of how all these components work. These little S and C and Z looking things you don't have to worry about. Okay, it's just this main column here. So let me show you what this looks like. Okay, so you see those red pieces there. Okay, that's kind of what we're going for. So let me query this. See if I can hide everything except C. It's horrible. One of the best skills you can learn for any industry is dealing with really bad source material. So you can see they're actually modeled already the way we need them in the DWG. You basically have to come in and just trace it and Revit model. Okay. So the problem is figuring out how to strip it down to get to this point. Okay, so you can see there's some brace material here. They've got flanges here between the leg and the haunch, and how it goes up like this. Another flange up here for it to connect. They'll probably bolt that together or weld it together. I'm not really sure. There we go. You can see the seams that they're accounting for. You can use this as a guide. You can come in and actually measure this to figure out how thick this flange is and how deep the web is right here. Okay, and you'll go in and you'll model this. Okay, now I already have columns that are similar that you can use as source material to start from. You can see it's not very complex in terms of how it's modeled. I don't have all the seams showing or anything like that. We don't need to show the seams. But what we do need to show are those flanges that you saw and that extension for the eave. Okay, the eave strut that sits out here and holds the roof. We do need to show that extension as well. Okay, so essentially, and I want you to do this as a family. It's a new family. And you can even take one of the columns that I've already started and save it as a new family and start from that if you want to do that. But you'll do, if you want to do a new one, it'll be a structural column. Okay. And I want you to bring the information. You can use the pump house model, and you can use the DWG that I'll send you in the to-do, you can use all that information to get those things modeled. Okay? As a bonus task, if you're up for it, when you get into, I just double click that to open it, by the way. When you open my column family, you'll notice that it's parametric. Okay, so all this geometry is driven by something. So I can actually say that this is a 2-foot leg, okay, and that this is 0 inches deep, so it's straight up. And then I can say the eave height is 17 feet, and that the knee thickness, which is this guy right here, okay, is 2 feet. All right, and that drives all that. Now, I'm not saying you have to set yours up that way, or that you even have to set up parametrics at all. But if you want, I would recommend spending some time kind of figuring out how this works, because eventually you'll want to know that, because this will really help you speed up your workflow if you understand parametrics, because everything in Revit is driven on parametrics. Okay? So, with that being said, do you have any questions?
I do have questions.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. Now that you showed me this, the part that's getting to me is where it's pointed in.
Up here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I guess I'll just kind of figure it out as I do it.
Yeah.
But the thickness of it, I'm trying to.
This thickness right here?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly.
You're trying to picture how to model it, how to get the geometry. So that's why I'm going to leave this family for you to play with. Okay, so look and see, how did I do this? Okay, double click it, see what it is. That's just an extrusion, right? So what is this? This is a sweep, right? Well, how did the sweep get applied? What's driving the shape? You know, where's the profile for this? Select profile. It's a sketch down here. Okay. So what drives the size of this? I'll tell you one thing that I didn't do on this because I didn't think it was important at the time. By the way, I did this like 8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
You never know when stuff that you do early in your career is going to come back to help you or haunt you. So always make it good. So I didn't put any parametrics in this to drive the size of that, the thickness of this flange. So that was killing me in this because I couldn't adjust it, and I just kind of conceded to letting it stay the way it was and getting the overall sizes right for now. Eventually, we'll need it to match what's in the metal building manufacturer's website. And I can also tell you that we'll probably be getting some changes to be made to the structural component, so it will be good to eventually be able to drive the shape of those columns through parameters. Okay? But don't let that be an overwhelming factor in getting the task done. We can always take the geometry and apply it to parameters later. So if you want to get through one of them and then use that as a base for the other ones and get the other ones done, that's fine. You can save them as different files, and then we'll come back in later on and we'll work on adding parameters. Okay. So, but I'm okay with you spending time on this project figuring out how to do this. Okay. I got the first part of it done really super quick. So we have this much total in the project, and I've used this much of it. And we're on the final part of it now. So this is a really good opportunity for you to spend resources learning how to use the tool.
Cool.
Okay, and getting paid for it.
That's a plus.
Yes, it is a plus. So any other questions? Does that make you feel better about that?
Yeah, it does make me feel better. With materials, do you add that in the actual family, or do you?
You
do
can.
That?
There's a bunch of different ways to add materials.
Okay.
I'm actually going to send you some links to my awful website, which has a few things on that. I don't know if the posts are any good. So materials. So I should have 3 different posts on materials. Yeah, it looks like the images are all there. But the video is not. Actually, the video might still work. The video does still work. So you can watch the videos, but I'll send you this link as well, and you can watch those videos and read those posts. But those are there's 3 main ways to apply materials to an object, and depending on how you're going to use those, are the different ways to do it. It's not as important to get the materials in right now, but if you want to go through and understand how to do that and pick an option and do that in this family, that would be great.
Okay. Right.
What else?
I think that's it. Can you go back to the original?
The model? The building?
Yeah, it was like the different elevations.
Oh, yes. This guy right here.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and that's a reference. Just the measurement. Is everything pretty much accurate?
Yeah, well, so these are the drawings that the building manufacturer is giving the contractor to use to build the building.
Oh, okay.
So there is no arguing these dimensions.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
This is how the building's being built, and we have to
Okay.
modify things to accommodate that.
Okay.
So to give you an idea of what the purpose of this project, so you kind of understand what the piece of the puzzle that you're fitting into. This project, we're not designing the building, we're not creating documents, we're creating a collaboration model. So we're creating the Revit model for architecture and structural that the contractor is going to use to find problems.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, and I'll show you right now. One of the problems that we have found is that, so these are the new column sizes right here. Okay, you see that how big that is? And this is how big they used to be. So, and this one's fine. You know, the structural engineer has to come back and resize that foundation. But you get over here and you see that these columns now start interfering with pipe supports. There's supposed to be pipes through here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is no longer going to work. We're either going to have to move the pipe supports, or they're going to have to go back and tell the building manufacturer we can't have columns that big. And like here, so that foundation's going to have to come out into this footing. Right? So these are all things that we can now see are an issue in our model, thanks to being able to put these things together.
Okay. Now those I see bolts there. Don't worry about that.
Those bolts,
Yeah.
are you telling me or asking me? That is not going to be a coordination problem.
Okay.
If you want to take the time to do something like that, these bolts I think are in the those are in the building manufacturer's model.
Okay.
Okay, so if you want to take the time to put those in, just to give you practice in modeling, you can do that. Now I will tell you, there's probably already some bolts modeled somewhere in the Revit library that you can bring in. But your main task is to get these columns that are in red in the model modeled in to Revit families.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
all right.
Awesome.
So
And
I'll do a little write up on Basecamp for it to do to point you in the right direction for resources. If you can't figure out how to get, in fact, I'll just show you. Do you know how to query DWGs?
No.
You know what I mean when I say query DWGs? Okay, so in this model, I have loaded a DWG from the building manufacturer. There's a drafting view, like I said. I shouldn't have saved that. I don't know what I was thinking. So DWGs, you've used AutoCAD, so you're familiar with the layer system, right? In Revit, and you might have already made this correlation, in Revit you have categories and subcategories, and that's like the layers of Revit. Okay, you can turn categories and subcategories on and off, like you turn layers on and off, froze them, unfroze them, or thawed them, things like that. So when you bring a DWG into Revit, it brings those layers in as categories, so you can turn them on and off just like you can other categories in Revit, okay? And it's just a matter of going into your visibility graphics and checking and unchecking them. The problem is that, as you've probably seen by looking at other DWGs, is that some people have a really hard time using AutoCAD correctly, and the layers are really horrible. And you don't know which object a layer is on. So the best way to figure out how to turn something on and off, instead of going through the 256 layers that are in an AutoCAD drawing, is to query it in the view that it's showing up in. So here we go. So if I go back to this guy right here, okay, and you can see as I hover over it, it's not selecting lines, okay, it's selecting the whole DWG. And if I hover over it and I leave it there, it'll tell me which one it is. This is 2D building layout A.DWG. So if I select that DWG, I get an option up here in my context menu, query. So what I can do is I can come in here and now I can select individual lines, right? So if I select, let's say this text, I get a little box that tells me what that object is. It's text. It's not in a block. It is on a layer called ANODIMS. All right, so I can either delete this out of the project completely, all right, which I wouldn't recommend when you're dealing with other people's DWGs, unless you're using it. If you're trying to tailor it specifically for graphics, then you can delete it. And you don't delete it from the DWG when you do that. You delete it from the imported instance in Revit. Okay. Or I can just hide in view. Okay, so now all the dimensions are just for this DWG. You notice that even though these are probably on the same layer in this, right, those are still there. So essentially what I did is in my visibility graphics under imported categories, okay, you can see I've got all these DWGs loaded and I can turn them all off individually. Okay, so if I hit apply, you can see some of them disappear. Okay. Or if I expand this, you notice that it looks a lot like the categories, right, in your normal visibility graphics. So you can see that ANODIMS that I just hid in view is turned off. So I can come back here and turn that back on, and now I've got those back. Okay. So it's just like, if you know what layer it's on already, then you can go in visibility graphics and check them. But if you don't know, like in the instance of this, see if I can find. Oh, that DWG's gone. What did I do? See, I've got all this stuff hidden, so I can't see it. There we go. Okay, so and the reason that I went through that is so that I can show you this. So I'm going to tab through and get the model. I'm going to do hide isolate so I can see only that DWG. Now this is a 3D DWG, so it's going to show up. You notice that those other DWGs aren't showing up because they're in drafting view, they're not in model space. But you can lay DWGs flat on a level in Revit if you need to do that. Okay. So instead of going through and figuring out through, there's not a whole lot of them, and they look like they could be relatively sensibly named, right? So I'll probably turn all these NCI ones off. There's probably nothing. So I can probably turn off wall trim, slab, right? And get a good idea of what's going on. There's probably a roof one. If I can turn that off too, right? Or I can come in here and hit query and see what all is on that layer. Okay, and you can see that it actually shows me everything that's on those layers. Right, so hide and view. There we go. So now you've got a good view of what their model looks like. This is essentially what you're modeling.
Okay.
is these guys right here.
So whenever I'm done with the family, I'm gonna actually model it, like actually create.
Well, when you're done with the family, you've already created it.
Okay.
What do you mean when you're done with the family?
Like create the actual Revit file project.
Yeah, you're gonna create.
Okay.
You're gonna create a Revit family specifically for, and ideally, we would like to be able to have one model that can handle all the different sizes. But what I'm saying is that unless you're really filling up to it, well, let's just do one file per column size for now.
Okay.
And then we'll go back and we'll work on the parametrics later on so that you can have a better idea of how to store similar shapes of different sizes in one file and use the parametrics to drive it. Okay. But for now, I think this is just a really good exercise in just modeling inside of Revit. So getting an idea of how do I create these shapes, right? Is this an extrusion or a sweep? How do I apply, this slope differently than this slope, right? And then the next step is thinking about, well, how do I make it so that this can change later down the road? You don't need to think about that right now.
Okay. And how did you align those to make it connect?
How did I make these? Are from I didn't do these.
Okay. But how would you?
Which part?
Because it looks like it's three different. That you have the flange, you have the column. Wait, I guess two different parts. You just
So it looks like they have the columns, and then they have these are probably beams. They call it rafters or FTS. So, and then where they have this on, they have those on columns. So, I would say if you would rather break it out that way, then go for it. I think that this whole thing needs to be one piece for what we're doing.
I was just wondering.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach this. Do you make a flange family and then bring it in and put it in place?
Yeah.
Or do you just model it in place where it is? I say for now, for the purpose of what you're doing, just model it. Not using the model in place, but model it at the shape and size that it's shown here at the location where it should actually be. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I got it. I think that was all the questions.
Okay. For now.
Yeah. So, do you want me to finish out the?
No, you can hold off on that.
Okay.
I'll let you kind of spend. You'll probably spend the rest of the day on this.
Okay.
So, but I think this will be good for you to kind of get.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. And I'll do a quick to do and get you going. You're rearranging my furniture over there? Hey guys, how's it going? What you got going over there? Oh, you're cleaning your city? It's building. Ocean. Really? Good. Let me see if mommy's ready for lunch. Are you ready for lunch? Are you getting hungry? Not hungry yet? Okay. All right. Did your drives come back when you restarted, Courtney? It did not connect. Okay, thanks. Let me know if you're able to do the remap batch file. Yeah, no rush. Just let me know. It did? Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Going pretty good. How you doing, Adrian? You have a good Christmas? Yes. Oh, sorry to hear that, man. We had an okay Christmas. Well, it said he's hungry. Let's come on over when you're ready. Oh man, this phone. Each in building drawings. Glad the kids had a good Christmas though. not? Oh. Oh. Looking forward to a good end of the year. Yeah, man, me too. What's up, buddy?
I'm done.
You're done. You've designed an entire city in 2 hours? That is amazing. Let's go take a look.
That's just the thing.
Go. Open that up and redo it. Here, you want to spin this around so I can grab it?
achieve a differentiated sound impossible to obtain in a monaural recording.
Oh man. Oh, Big Magic. You still watching? Let's see. Does it say BM still watching? Are we paired on Watch Me Work? No, we're not. What's up, buddy?
Can I have some tape?
Some tape? What do you need tape for?
To tape the paper down.
They're right there. Think you can use it without making a mess? Okay.
That's 4 pieces.
4 pieces. Yeah, sure. All right. This is pathetic.
No stencil.
The stencil? Was it supposed to come with one?
Yeah.
Let's think. See if I can figure out. Oh man. Oh. What's up, buddy? Find one? You need a sharpener? Okay. Alright. So I think once I get this imported, we are going to end for the afternoon, or for the morning. I'll be back this afternoon. Let's see what these pipes look like though. It's going.
Sorry, ow.
I'm sorry. Just now using it? It looks like. You guys ready to eat? Alright, give me just a few minutes. Alright, so now we have all this in here. And we've got all these pipes as well. Oh, really? That's pretty cool. Are you gonna open it now or wait until the next DIN meeting?
I'm gonna go and open it now.
Oh, okay.
Show it to everybody when we get it.
So let's see.
It feels like there might be pictures.
This is what it looks like now. With all the pipes in there. That's pretty cool. Looks like the heights are a little bit off. This is what I'm having to do, is go in and make sure that all these supports are underneath the pipes at the appropriate sizes.
Wait a second, don't open them all. Okay, this falls off. Why don't we'll take these. That's down.
Alright. Looking for jobs and stuff. That's always fun to do over Christmas break. Or maybe you get a late Christmas present and get you a job. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this stream for now. I'll be back a little bit after lunch and get this pump house good and going. In the meantime, I'll see you again. I hope you have a happy new year. And thanks for tuning in.